here with Claire, and this is part of the Joyful Growth Club that Russell and I are hosting for the whole of January. So we're nearly there, folks. We are nearly at the end of January. And the idea behind Joyful Growth was just to get in some conversations around what feels joyful online, what feels joyful on Substack, what feels joyful for connection, personal growth, professional growth, Substack growth, all the things. So joyful growth across all of the airwaves. And I couldn't think of anyone better to speak to about growth and joyful growth than Claire, because she is just the brightest light. Like, she's hilarious in person and online. She's got this beautiful humor in her illustrations, but she's also really funny in her posts as well. So I was like, let's have a little January chat and see what's happening. So welcome, Claire.
Thank you. That's nice to hear. I think sometimes my style of joy is almost turning things that in the moment don't feel very joyful into, we just need to laugh at this. So yeah, it's good to be here today. And I was just saying, for everybody that's joining, perfect example of that was this morning, that I was thinking that I was going to have loads of free time this morning. I dropped my little dog off at doggy daycare for the first time, which was a bit heart-wrenching. But as I drove away, I was like, oh, this is great though, because I'm going to have like 3 or 4 hours and I'm going to be able to get loads done, and it's just going to be peace and quiet, and it's going to be brilliant. And as I was thinking this, steam started rising from the bonnet of my car, and I was like, oh, that's weird, I'll just ignore that for a minute. And then all of a sudden I was like so engulfed in steam that I had to pull over at the side of the road. And and you just like, and I sat and I felt a bit like Michael Douglas in that film, the one where he loses it at his steering wheel in Los Angeles. And I was like, okay, we're just going to sit here and we're going to let it cool down. And then I had to go to the garage, and it's booked in for a service and next week, and I got in 10 minutes before this call, and I was like, okay, well, all we can do is laugh about that, really. All we can do. That's all we can do.
Yeah, it's like time is just the thief. Like, time is the thief. I am glad that we are heading towards the end of January, because I always get the January scaries around tax returns. So I've been self-employed since 2008. And this time every year I'm like, okay, like, how much do I owe? Have I done everything I'm meant to do? This year I was really on top of it. So my tax return was done like back in the summer, which was a really nice feeling. But my accountant made a mistake on it, and I owed £4,000 more than they had calculated. So I got all these horrible letters in summer about that. And obviously my husband's like, Claire, it's not the bogeyman. Like, it's just the tax. And I'm like, I know, but it's numbers, and I try and do it so diligently, and I work with accountants, all things. Anyway, so I'm always glad when that is done and we start in February, which not only feels like a shorter month, but it's this kind of piece of like, we held on. Like, it's been very grey here in Northumberland, and I feel like some of my joy has had to come from conversation and connection. Do you get that?
Yeah.
It's actually just really grey and hard, and I need to find the joy from outside of the house. Yeah.
Yeah, and I also feel January comes with, I think it's a subconscious pressure, January, and I actually think that it starts on the 1st and it lasts actually for the whole month, because for me, I always have this sense that it's a clean slate, right? And I love January for that. So, and I always sort of have a bit of and I know a lot of people do it, and I wrote a post about it, that my closing ritual for the year just gone is just to imagine that I just pack it in a box and I just throw it in a river and watch it sink to the bottom. That is my closing ritual, because I'm like, normally by the time I get to the end of December, I'm like, bye-bye, I am done with you, whatever year it was. But then I think January leads to, it's almost like there's too much expectation that it's going to feel different in some way. And actually, it doesn't. And sometimes it actually feels a bit worse, because as you've just said, it's grey and horrible outside and nobody's really doing a lot. And so I completely agree with you that I've found this year, this January, I've been calling people more. I've been talking to people more. I've been trying to show up on social media a bit more, but actually mostly just having conversations in the background. Because I think it makes it feel slightly less bleak. Even if you just call someone up and are like, this is rough, and they're like, yeah, tell me about it, I instantly feel not alone. And I think January can be a bit of an isolating time, because everyone's trying to get back into the rhythm of things. intentions are high, expectations are high, we're all trying to be better people. And actually, it's quite nice when you ring up somebody or you speak to someone on social media and they're like, yeah, haven't been to
Yeah.
the gym once. And you're
Yeah.
like, yeah, me neither.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? Yeah, there is all of that stuff. And I think that blank slate mixed with expectation, even when like I'm 44 years in now to January, lucky me. But there is this piece of, I think when you're self-employed as well, depending on what's going on. But for me, I think I want that connection, but I am meeting people in a place where they're like, oh, not this again, Claire. Like, can I not just like sit on my sofa and like write something or do something that isn't that? Like, I'm trying to G everybody up, and it's felt like energetically, I'm really trying to do that, and everybody's not quite ready. So, there's this really interesting piece where we do decide to connect in, like we would with your lovely lives, which we're going to chat about, where there is that element of surprise. And I feel like that has been what has been working to give somebody a bit of a surprise in the grey has been the thing where people are like, ah, either a
Mm,
surprise breakthrough or just a surprise visual or just something that breaks out of the monotony of how people have been feeling, especially with the heaviness of world events and news and stuff. So, with your lives, Claire, so you do these really generous and really beautiful live streams on Substack where you will take us with you on this journey of sketching and illustration and people join them and stuff. I wonder, first of all, how it feels. And second of all, like, is this something that you've done on other platforms and you've brought here, or what did you create it for Substack?
yeah. So on Instagram, I've never done live. So I've been on Instagram for a long time, but I've never done live drawing there. I'm trying to think. No, I haven't. I would just create reels, I would just film myself as I'm drawing and then
Put
upload
it out
that
there.
later.
Yeah.
For the most part, I don't do it. I think it's because the way Instagram's sort of set up, it's quite difficult to do a live actually. It doesn't really work for me. But
Yeah.
on Substack, and I did it as a very impromptu thing maybe 8 or 9 months ago when they launched the new feature. Um, and I was off work and I just thought, oh, I'm just going to give this a go. And it was like a Wednesday morning and I didn't really think anything of it. And I had no expectations. And I think I had about 200 people show up for that first live. Um, and I realized, and it's interesting that, we're talking about connection because even though when I'm doing a live, I'm drawing, it's that sense again that I'm not doing it alone. And even though I can't necessarily always see the comments because obviously they're slightly above me on my phone and I'm focusing on what I'm doing, it's always really lovely to know that people are getting enjoyment from something that, if I'm being honest, comes very naturally to me. And sometimes I forget that, and I forget that when I watch somebody that I really admire drawing, uh, I get a certain feeling from that. And I sometimes forget that people see me that way. And doing those lives really reminds me that it's inspiring for people. And as you said, some people they don't even want to be illustrators, right? They just actually enjoy that moment, whether it's 5 minutes or half an hour of being able to watch somebody create something in real time.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really lovely thing to be able to do for people. And especially in this sort of world of generative AI, where there's a lot now that we're not really sure whether it's real or fake. So
Yeah.
watching something come to life for other people, I think is lovely. And for me, it makes me value what I do and am able to do more because obviously as an illustrator I get very bogged down sometimes in deadlines and it can feel like you're a little bit of a production line. Um Deadlines can be quite intense and sometimes you don't lose the love for what you do, but it's tiring and you forget that what you're producing is bringing people joy in the long run. And so what I love about the Substack lives is that I'm able to see the response from people immediately. And then obviously people often message me afterwards. And sort of say like I really enjoyed it and I feel really inspired and I've had the most beautiful messages from people. and I always make the replays available. And there was one message from someone who, she lived in the UK and her mum was over in Chicago, and her mum was really sick and she was having to fly back and forth like multiple times, and it was really tough on her. And she said that she discovered my replays and that they were bringing her a lot of joy, but also they'd made her pick up a pencil and a sketchbook, and she was finding that really therapeutic through this
Yeah.
really painful period that she was going through. And that was just like, oh wow, like I've
Yeah.
inadvertently really helped someone through a difficult time. And so they've proven to be more than what I expected them to be, basically.
Yeah, so beautiful. And so are they for like all subscribers? It's a free stream that you do, or do you paywall them anytime?
So this has been a really difficult one. So when I do them live, they're always free. And actually, I really toy with the idea of when I put the replays up on my Substack publication, I really oscillate between whether or not there should be a paywall on them or not. I
Mhm.
think what I'm probably going to do is that they were getting quite long was the only thing that I'd say. And I really thought about, I stopped them in November and December because I really wanted to think about them.
Yeah.
Because in order for me to show up and do them more regularly, they actually need to be a bit shorter. So I've sort of given myself a time limit of about between 15 minutes to half an hour maximum.
And that's
Because
not long to get a drawing finished, is it? Yeah.
yeah, but if I'm just doing it in ink, I can
Yeah, just a sketchy sort of
do
one.
quite a lot in hot.
Yeah.
I'm quite quick now. And so I've realized that actually that's quite nice for people though, because everybody's time poor, right? We're all feeling like we've got too much to do. So
Mm.
actually, rather than me showing up and doing something that lasts for an hour, I was like, actually, I can probably come on and do it a lot more regularly if it's just 15 minutes. Because also in my head, that 15 minutes is just a transition time between one deadline and another. You know, I can do that quite easily. And
Yeah.
so I think I might make the short ones free for subscribers paying, even
Yeah.
if they're paying, and then anything that's a bit more in depth about my process, that will probably be behind a paywall. I find the whole paywall thing difficult. And I know you and I have discussed this at length because I think for me, there's something in me that wants my art to be seen by as many people as possible. Um, and I feel quite strongly that art, not that it should be behind a paywall, but I just want it to be viewed as much.
Yeah.
And so putting it behind a paywall sometimes doesn't sit well with me. But then when you have paying subscribers, it's really difficult because
There's a
you also
balance.
want them to feel that they're getting something for their money. So it's a bit of a tough one.
Yeah, it is. And I think with artists especially, there's this real blend of the patron model where people want to pay to support you because they know that art's well, it brings joy, but also it can be really unstable in terms of a career and it can bring lots of pressure and all that sort of thing. So they want to lift you up. So that's like the patron type people. And then there's the other people that definitely want the depth of the tutorial. You know, they're really
Mm,
curious what it looks like when you've been drawing professionally and what materials you play around with and what your preferences are with all of that sort of stuff. So that sort of knowledge, people really like that as well. So it's not like one type of audience, I don't think, for an illustrator. I think people are interested in all sorts of things. And I know with your posts, they really like it when you write honestly about what
yeah.
you do, about your journey and how everything's feeling as well. So I think they just feel really connected to you, don't they? I think
Yeah.
it's interesting with Substack video as well, because we can put a little piece of it or as much of it as we want for free and then paywall the rest with Substack video. So that is a really interesting thing. And I'm really curious about Substack TV, which is this new feature, which is an app that you can have on your television to watch video. So obviously watching video is a passive experience. People might, you know, message you afterwards, but it's a bit more like the podcasting piece where people listen, but you very rarely hear from them. You know, they've had
Mhm.
really moving experiences and they've had really profound thoughts, but you might not necessarily necessarily ever find that stuff out. So I'm really curious at the minute about this active participation and this live in the moment stuff, and then this replay place, and the passive sort of, there's no one there anymore. I just find it all fascinating. I think it's so cool.
I know, because I do something called Pen Pal Pals, where I invite sort of industry and other illustrators and authors on, and I've got like a lineup of that I'm be rolling out this year. I
Yeah,
stopped around Christmas because everybody got so busy, it was a bit
yeah,
like
a bit of a
hard for
break.
people to watch them and also hard to just fit them in. But I know that a lot of people, even if I end up drawing with the other illustrator, they say they actually put them on and they do listen to them like a
Yeah,
podcast, even though
yeah.
it's a video. So I
Hmm.
think what is great, I think, about Substack is that it's becoming a very fluid place for people to show up. So even though it is a video, you can listen to it like a podcast and you can
Yeah,
just glance at it every now and again, and
yeah.
I've done that with people. I've just put it on in the background
Yeah,
whilst
and then
I've
you're
been working.
doing your work. Yeah. Hmm.
I know I've listened to you and Katie Chappell, I can never pronounce the name. And I did it that way, and I just had you on in the background like you were the
Yeah,
radio.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it
And there was
feels
a bit
good.
like punchy one. I remember that one. I think this is it as well. Like now I'm having conversations with people where I'm like, shall we podcast or shall we do Substack Live? And I'm still figuring out which is like not better, but which one makes the most sense,
Yeah.
because the lives, obviously, it's great and it's this format, and then we can post it to our Substack. And actually, mine all pull through to my podcast feed. But the lives don't get as many listens after the effect as the podcast episodes. So I'm always like, okay, like if we do this as a podcast and I put it out in all of the ways that I do, it gets more listens. So that's what I'm leaning into at the moment. But it is really
Interesting.
interesting. I think even though it pulls through, it's just there's a different quality. Maybe to my interviewing, maybe to like the topics and stuff. But I think the lives, they're a bit more chatty, aren't they? They
Yeah.
just have a bit more of a chat. Whereas a podcast, you're like, right, like let's get through all of this in an hour. So maybe I'm a bit different and that's why, but I'm really leaning in this year because I like both mediums. I think with your streams, Claire, what I wanted to ask as well is have you found a way where you can talk to people or like see what's going on in any sort of way, or are you just setting it up and then filming your drawings and just letting it be what it is? Like, is it like a live camera in your room, or is it you drawing and like connecting? How do you feel like that's set
What, when I've got guests on?
Well, no, the drawing ones.
Yeah, so that one, when I'm just doing the drawing and it's just me, and I've actually wanted to play around with this, because normally what I do is I have I should have bought it. I've
It's
got
like
like
an overhead tripod.
an overhead. It's actually
Mhm.
really cool. It's
Yeah.
by a company called Paparazzo, and I really hesitated getting it because it was like an Instagram ad, and I've bought so many things from Instagram ads, and then when they arrive, you're like, oh, this is not what was advertised. But this, I will actually. I'm actually going to do a post about it because the amount of overhead
Amazing. I'll link it when you do.
lamps and
Right.
stuff is just that
Mhm.
I've got is just a nightmare. But this one works and it folds down into a really neat little box.
Yeah.
But what it gives me the ability to do is I can now flip from being the front facing camera where I could speak to people first and then flip
Yeah.
it down so that it's an overhead looking at what I'm about to draw. Because up until now, what I've done has always just been, if you were to see that I'd gone live on the Substack app, you join and you're instantly just looking at my hands drawing something. You're not going to
Yeah.
see my face. You'll
Got
hear
you.
me talking
Mhm.
because I ramble on quite a lot. But that's how I've done them up
Mhm.
until now. But I'm wondering if sometimes it might be quite good to almost do like a little piece to camera about sort of what I've been up to, or because that's the only thing that I do really like about um Instagram stories is
Yeah.
that it's a really good way to sort of keep in touch with people and connect with people and let them know what you're up to when you're really, really busy. So, for example, at the moment, I've got 4 deadlines on, and I've got 2 books coming out next month. So it's a really busy time for me. So me putting up social media posts or doing too many lives, I've got to sort of squeeze them in. And I'm wondering whether there's a way on Substack to sort of do that. And I guess I really like it when you turn up on
Mhm.
Substack and you'll just do like a little live to camera. And every time you do it, I think, oh, I could be doing that as well. Just a bit like,
Yeah.
this is what I'm up to. And then see you
Mm.
soon type thing, you know?
Yeah, I feel like, and there's those pockets that I've tried, and I've got a different comfort level with them all, but I've tried while I've been out walking the dog. I've tried
Yeah.
while I've been like in the car, because I think I do really like a bit of transition. Like I'm like you, where it's like, what am I doing to transition from this job? I'm always talking to my Instagram stories when I go grocery shopping because I don't want to go in. So I'll just go
Yeah.
on Instagram stories. It's like a procrastination, but it's like a good procrastination because at least I'm showing up. So there is that little bit, and I think there is that piece where not only are you top of mind, but also people feel that connection. So it's not all about the work and the business, it's about that like personal connect with you, which is really nice. I think as well, when we're thinking about filming something that we're doing, people like that, don't they? They like to be a fly on the wall, they like to see something from start to finish. Like there's something quite satisfying about process that I think must satisfy people when they're watching your work.
Yeah. I think, and I suppose I've thought about this quite a lot. And I think for me, I get really uh, turned off when I see things that are very, very polished and perfect, and there's
Yeah.
no glimpse behind the scenes of how that was made. And I think the thing that probably appeals to people is that social media has made everything feel very polished. And so it's
Yeah.
really lovely to see things being made from scratch because you get to see the mistakes and how they're fixed or how somebody deals with them. And I find that really appealing because other people's processes, especially in the artistic world, you can learn so much from them. And, even, I've been illustrating for a decade now. And I'm still fascinated by how other people create their art, even if they use materials that I will probably never go anywhere near.
Yeah.
It's just that process of how their mind works. And that I think is what is interesting to people because you're not just seeing art being created, you're seeing somebody's thought processes and how they perceive the world and
Mm.
the way in which uh, they sort of decide how they're going to layer up their color or what choices they're going to make. It's really interesting because
Yeah.
obviously every artist approaches their work in a completely different and unique way. And by watching someone else, it can free you up as well to try what they do in your own work. And I think that's, I think, why people really enjoy it.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm really curious as well because I know when I was learning to draw as a kid, like there was a lot of scrumpled paper. And watching my daughter, who's 5, there's this piece that goes on where she's like, I've done it wrong. Like, that's the end, start again, start again, start again. Whereas
Yeah.
obviously, because you have a craft, you'll be going in a certain type of direction. And there's that self trust piece where it's like, this will turn into something. And I've heard you on the lives before where you're like, oh, that didn't, that's happened and all, we're off here. And like, it's like this beautiful journey where you are bringing it to life no matter what. And
Yeah.
it's not because there's a live audience there, it's because it's your process, isn't it? But I am curious if you've ever just gone at the end of a live, oh, I'm just going to put that,
Oh,
or whether you pin them up or what you do.
there was actually the only thing I've learned. So the lives have been a really interesting. Um, they've been a very interesting thing for me to do in terms of I've learned quite a lot about myself from doing them. So
Mm-hmm.
I've learned that if I schedule a live in advance,
Mm-hmm.
it's not a good idea
Yeah.
because ADHD, neurodiverse.
Mm-hmm.
I will schedule a live when I'm feeling really up for it and creative. And then when I get to the moment to do the live, there's a very high chance that it will be a low dopamine day and I will have no
You'll feel
creative
it.
energy. And there's been several that I've done. And as soon as I've turned the camera on and started drawing, I've thought, oh, I am not, there is nothing. And
Yeah.
a couple of them have gone really, I don't want to say badly, but they were not, it was not flowing. Let's just
Yeah.
put it that way. And the
Yeah.
drawings went on the fire. That's where all
Yeah.
my drawings
Lovely.
end up. If
Mm.
I just
Yeah.
use them as kindling later on.
Yeah.
And actually, you have to be careful with it though, because just because I can draw doesn't mean that I'm immune to, bouts of self-doubt about it. And I
Mm.
remember there was one particular live I did that I just didn't enjoy it. And I felt really under pressure to produce something good,
Yeah.
and I learned a lot from that because I think it took me about a month to come back and do them because I
Yeah.
was a bit traumatized.
Yeah.
So what I've learned is that I'm better just showing up when I
When you
want to
feel
show
like
up.
it. And
And
I love that.
then there's
Yeah.
also sort of you have to get over the idea that people need you to be showing up every day.
Yeah.
That's not, you don't need to do that. They'd rather you showed up once a month and
Mhm.
were there in full joyful energy than
Yeah.
trying to show up every other day but you're not really feeling it. I've tried that as well and that didn't
Yeah.
work either.
Yeah. Yeah, anything like that's like a 30-day project or a 100-day project, like I like the idea of, but in practice, no. Like I
Really
like
hard.
being in charge of my own energy. That's what I like. So things like that, although there would be interesting discovery tools, they don't work for me.
No.
I mean, I still find myself thinking about it, but I much prefer the live energy of like, oh, I feel like talking about this. I can definitely identify with that piece of like feeling really weird on a live. There was one that I did and I'd read a really negative message that was very personal not long before. And I started talking on a live and I just lost my train of thought. But obviously, like I'm live, and then I was really aware of being live, and I was just like, oh, like I feel like I'm getting some sort of disassociation. It wasn't pleasant at all. And so after that, I've been really kind to myself. Like there was
Mm,
one that I'd scheduled that I just didn't do. I just did
yeah.
a thing. I just didn't do it. It was like, right. But it is really interesting because I still think our nervous systems are getting used to this. And if we see ourselves outside of ourselves on the live, you are a bit like, wait, what am I doing? Like, what's
Yeah.
happening here? It's just strange. And then because Substack puts the numbers up and up and up, so it says 58 here live, there won't be 58 people. That's just cumulative who's joined the call. So it keeps that going. So you don't actually know, like, unless someone comments live or presses the hearts or whatever, you can't feel that energy in the same way
Yeah.
that you can a Zoom call. So it's just new, isn't it? It's new technology. It's a new way of chatting, seeing yourself, showcasing what you're up to. And there just will be those bits of vulnerability that you just learn more about yourself through the
And
process.
especially when you're live and it's just you are just talking into the void, but you
Yeah,
also know you're not talking into. And I think
yeah,
that's the thing about, the difference between Substack lives and Instagram stories.
yeah.
Instagram stories, you're not live. You can
No,
post it and
you
in
won't.
30
Yeah,
seconds you could delete it if you thought,
yeah.
oh no,
And
actually.
it's fun to
Whereas
discuss
live,
hours. Yeah.
you are quite vulnerable
Mhm.
and I mean, I've done a couple of lives where halfway through I've said, guys, I'm really sorry, but I am not feeling it.
Yeah.
And I don't want to waste everybody's time. So please, actually, can
Yeah.
we just all go? And,
Yeah.
people are really kind and they're not bothered because they can feel your energy
Yeah.
is just
It's not
like,
the
"Ugh,
telly.
I'm dying out
We're
here."
not newsreaders, are we? It's not the telly. Like
No.
we can just go. Actually, could we all just go? Like let's
Yeah, and I
like
have
that.
said that before, and I think probably some people have and also, I mean, when you're drawing, I'm judging my work a lot more
Yeah, you
harshly than other
through that
people,
lens.
you
Yeah.
know, but, sometimes I think the best thing to do is and there's been a few I think I started a 7-day it wasn't a challenge, but I just said I was gonna go live at 5 every day for a week, and I think I got to day 3 and was like, "I absolutely hate this. I hate it." And actually,
It's like coming up
fortunately,
all day, isn't it? It's like, you've got it to do and you're like,
and I was like, I'm not in the mood and I don't want to do it. And actually, on day 3, I started down with a bad cold. And you know what? I've never been so relieved to get sick, because I
I don't have
genuinely
to do it now.
emailed everyone and I was like, I'm really sorry, but I'm ill and I can't do it. And behind the scenes, I was like, woo. But
Yeah.
you learn from those things. And I suppose that's the thing, Substack's a very new platform. And I feel as though it's all just trial and error. And eventually, I
Yeah.
think the thing is, though, going back to like the joyful connection, is the more honest you can be, the more people really resonate with you. Because I
Oh, yeah.
think we are all quite tired
Yeah.
of masking. We're all very tired of pretending like we're all acing it, when really behind the scenes you've got your head on the desk and you're just a bit like, oh god.
Mhm.
So I think that's why the honesty and the connection, they go hand in hand, because I definitely find the more honest I am, even, and sometimes I think, oh god, I've just sent out a Substack newsletter thing and it just feels like I'm moaning, but it's like, well, that's where I am right now, and they're
Where
the
you are,
ones that
yeah.
get the most
Yeah.
comments, because everyone's like, oh, thank goodness it's not just
You
me
fair.
feeling this way you
Yeah.
know
Yeah. And it's hard to move through as well, because I think we do have this parasocial relationship with the people that are subscribed to us. So obviously we have a lot of people that are quiet and you don't hear from. But then you do have this beautiful community of people that you see time and time again, or people that you see really intensely and then they disappear and you're like, are they okay? Like, I haven't seen them. Like, it is strange. And so I think there is this piece of, it's okay to share where you're at. And then at the same time, it's okay to not share where you're at. Like, if you want to keep that and process that privately, it's like either one is fine. It's just that people will be reading a completely individual and unique response to what you say. Like, not everybody is having the same reading experience. And I always think
mm,
that, like the things that people comment and the things that people say, especially in response to if I have said anything negative. And I sometimes do it just for balance, because people are like, oh, I thought you were just all toxic positivity. And I'm like, no, like, I'm very real, but I also want to lift everybody up and like share the joy. Like, that is me and it is part of my brand. Like, it's not just me as my brand, it's me behind the scenes. Like, my husband
yeah.
talks about it all the time. But of course, there are the ups and downs. There are the things that I find really difficult and challenging. And I do think that that is really helpful to people, because otherwise we're just perpetuating this terrible boss syndrome, where we are being a terrible boss to ourselves, but actually we're self-employed or we run companies or whatever we do. And it's like, no, we get to choose. We don't have to schedule it for like the same time every day. That's like a job, so we
Yeah.
can work with our energy and we can model that and talk more about that. Yeah. I
And
love
I've found that writing on Substack or going live, it helps me to take my life slightly less seriously. So, as a freelancer who works alone, it's can be quite isolating. And I moved
yeah.
out of London to a place where we've got friends here, but they're not in my industry. And so I am slightly removed now from all of my friends and colleagues that I used to see quite regularly, that were like my tribe, and I don't get to see them as much. And so that can sometimes mean that you feel a little bit in the quagmire of your own life. And
Mm.
I've found that writing about it in a humorous way actually lifts me up as well.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
some of my posts can feel quite, classically Britishly sarcastic. But by the time I've got to the end of it and I've signed off, I feel a little bit brighter. I
Yeah.
feel as though I've taken the things that are happening to me with a slightly more humorous take, and that's good for everybody involved.
Mm. Yeah, it's really nice. I really wanted to ask you about the commercial side, Claire, and we did touch on it a little bit around paywalls. But obviously, you are an artist, you are commissioned to make art, to illustrate books, all of that gorgeous stuff. Is there a piece of you that is trying to work out with the drawing live on Substack if there's a commercial element to that, or are you just seeing it as a beautiful offering for the people that show up? Like, has your business brain gone there, I guess, is my question.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the answer at the moment would probably be no, because I think I view the lives as a break from commercial work, I suppose. That's not to say that there probably isn't a commercial opportunity in it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know, obviously, when you chatted to Katie Chappelle, is it Chappelle or Chapel?
Chapel, yeah.
Chapel. It's
Yeah.
because she's got double P and a double
I
L, and I'm
know.
always like, maybe it's Chappelle, which is very French.
I love
Um,
it.
yeah,
Oh, I
and
really love it.
I remember where obviously she live draws,
Yeah.
and that's definitely something that I'd be fine doing. But my style of live drawing is very different because I still draw with pencil first, right? So I draw with pencil and then I'll ink over the top of it. And I suppose because that's my style of drawing. Whereas, for example, I've chatted on Substack Lives with Jason Chatfield, who's got like 17,000 followers or something, and he's a New York cartoonist. Like, he's amazing. He's
Right,
also a
yeah.
comedian. And he draws straight in ink. So it's like a really different
Yeah.
style and process to me. And so I haven't really thought about what the commercial opportunities would be about doing lives. At the moment, I think of them as more me just being able to share very quickly my sketchbook time,
Yeah.
because people
Right.
seem to
Yeah.
enjoy that. And I guess I could monetize that by, through subscribers. But with regards to the lives themselves, no, I've not really thought about it.
Mm. I just think it's so interesting because obviously you are creating art that an audience are witnessing. And I just wonder if anyone does message you and say, can I buy that? Like, is there a way I can buy that? Like,
Yeah.
because people love art ownership and people see that yes, you can buy art in a gallery, you can have a piece beautifully framed, you can see art in children's books, but there's definitely the people that are like, I saw that being brought to life and it reminded me of my auntie, or it made me laugh, or it brought so much joy to my day. And I'm just so curious about it all, where people's brains go with it. Or, maybe they go on your website and they buy your Christmas cards. I don't know. But I just think it's
It's
so cool.
interesting because just last week, was it last weekend or the weekend before? I did I did 4 drawings on a Saturday morning, like really early, for friends that were all having a joint birthday party that evening. And I like skipped off to the framers and had them framed in
Yeah.
like record time. And afterwards, a few people, I did a Substack post about it, and a few people did say, oh, if you ever have anything like that for sale again, I'd love to buy it. So it's a really good point because obviously if instead of doing it in I could just like cut it out my sketchbook, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess if it's something that my thing at the moment is actually parting with the drawings that I do. And I'm slowly getting over that now. But I think it's absolutely doable to sort of say, at the end of a live, actually, if anybody wants to buy this,
Yeah.
you can,
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it is an interesting one, isn't it? And we've chatted about this behind the scenes around price points for original drawings, how long something takes to create, price points for prints, whether you would do prints and keep originals. And I just think it's all so fascinating. I got into licensing in a big way a few years ago because I was working with a beautiful illustrator friend, Trina Dazil, she's called, and we were doing some commissioned work together. And so she'd done a lot of like magazine work and this sort of thing. And she'd gone through a licensing course that really helped her understand what she was licensing out and what the purpose of it was. Like, so whether that would be then commercially printed on things or whether that would be owned for a certain amount of time, but she reclaimed the rights of the original. And I just loved it for her because it had gone from like, oh, I commission an illustration and then I'm the only one that gets to use that like forever, to her being like, is it okay if I do like a 5-year license because it's for this specific project, and then after that time, like if you want. And I was like, oh, I love all this, it's great,
I know, because that's the thing, because sometimes I will draw something and I'll think, oh, I'd love to use this on, I don't know, tea towels, for
Yeah.
example, right? But then if I was to sell that drawing as an original, it's like it is the original drawing, but the person that's buying it, if I'm also selling that drawing on a product in my shop, do I then have to lower the price of the original because it's also being seen and enjoyed by other people,
Yeah.
even though if you buy the original, you've got the original artwork. So it's for me that I'm like thinking about that quite a lot at the moment, because that's sort of what's stopping me selling more is
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah, but I might want that drawing to be on a product in my shop. So
Yeah.
therefore, how does that
Working it all
affect the
through.
price point
Mm.
of the original?
Yeah.
It's a tricky
Yeah.
one.
It is a tricky one, and I don't think like anyone has it figured out in a way where they feel super resolved about it. From people that I've spoken to that make art, I think it's just an interesting one to play around with, and especially in this new medium because of the witnessing. That's what I'm really
Yeah.
interested in. People are witnessing it coming to life. They can see all of that. They've been part of that. And then that has like a different, for me, that feels like it has a different energetic pull to then want to buy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's different to like seeing a piece on a website or in a gallery than when you've been part of it. So I'm just curious about how it all unfolds and what happens with it all. I'd love to see more of that sort of stuff on Substack.
Yeah, it's a good
Real
idea.
passion.
And you'll probably see me in the next couple of months starting to do exactly that. And you'll know
Yeah.
where I got the idea from.
Oh no,
From
well I
you.
love it. But I also think about notebooks as well. Like just before we came on, like I was just doing a little bit of my sort of inner teen and just putting some stickers on here. I don't know where these stickers have come from, but I always try and just like be a bit crafty. And I do love my notebooks, but I'm always thinking like be nice if there was an illustration on them. But they're all like things like this, like inspirational quotes and stuff. And I do love them, but I'm like, I'd love some art,
Oh,
on the
well,
cover of my
because I did a
notebook.
collaboration with so my
Yes.
sketchbooks.
Yes.
Yes, my sketchbooks that I use, it's a company called Base Notes,
Yeah.
and they're all handmade, and like every
Mm,
sketchbook that you buy from them's handmade
mm.
in East London.
Gorgeous.
And they got in touch with me on Instagram and asked if I would illustrate a drawing on two of their sketchbooks, which they then did a competition for
For
people
people
to
to
win.
win. Mm,
And I think we're going to do another one because they did it in the UK only,
yeah.
which I sort of said to them, if you can
We've
do
got
it
an
worldwide, I think
international.
that would be
Yeah.
better. But they didn't. They wanted to
It,
do UK only.
I think that time as well, it was hard, wasn't it, with like tariffs and insecurity around shipping and
I think they were
all of
worried
that.
that it would cost a fortune,
Yeah.
but I think they learned from that because there were so many international people
Right.
that wanted to join that they've
Yeah.
realized actually it will be worth the money.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think we're going to do it again. And it's definitely something that I want to investigate for my shop, which is only recently launched. And there's Christmas cards in there at the moment. So I need to sort of when my books are out the way, that will be like the next thing on the list to get
Mm-hmm.
some new products in there. But it is something that I really want to do.
Yeah.
Because I think you're right. Sketchbooks often and notebooks, they're just plain or they've got like an inspirational quote on them, but you don't
Yeah.
really see that many
And we
with a
use them
drawing on
every
the front.
day, don't we? And I just think it would be so lovely. I'm also really always excited about Substack collaborations. So years ago, Adam Ming and I did a get together for illustrators to talk about if people were going to commission illustrators specifically for their Substack, how it might work. So whether
Mm,
they could commission 10 illustrations at a time or 20, and then that would be the person's Substack branded up, yes, because they put the colours through, but they would have these beautiful images to accompany their words. So we just had loads of interesting conversations around it, like years and years ago, and loads of illustrators came and everybody chimed in with thoughts, and people sent me emails afterwards, and it was just so cool. And then we tried to like do this like dating service where people could meet each other and commission and like all of that gorgeous stuff. I don't really know where any of that got to, but I do think we could see more illustrations with more words on
yeah.
Substack. Always passionate about that. And I think because we're really pushing for this kind of anti AI generated imagery for loads of reasons, but the main reason being is there is a quality to hand drawn, hand painted work, especially work that is commissioned specifically for somebody's words. I'm just thinking about Emma Gannon and what she does. So she has a different illustration for every single newsletter, which obviously will be costly, but there's other ways with it. So yeah, I just think I'm really curious about all of that space and collaboration and what we do. And I've done little bits of it when we were doing our soil web project. Trina was the illustrator for that, so I put those all through my Substack, and my Substack had this beautiful quality to it
Mm,
when I did that, that was very specific to us. Like she came and drew in the garden and all that sort of gorgeous stuff, but it was project specific. It was like of its time. So yeah, I just think there's loads of opportunity, isn't there, to think about
I
things
know.
like that.
Yeah, there is. I think it'd be really interesting to see, and it's been lovely actually on to see in the last sort of 18 months on Substack more illustrators
Yes.
arrive and, you know, make use of the platform, because I think it
Mhm.
really lends itself to illustration. It doesn't feel, it's not as saturated as Instagram. I think that's the thing about it. Like
Yeah.
Instagram has become a bit of an echo chamber for, you know, it just is a lot of the same stuff over and over again. And, you know, I think the problem with Instagram is you look at one picture of a chicken and then all of a sudden all you're seeing is chickens, right? So you just get a bit like, ah, it's just one chicken. Whereas Substack isn't like
There's
that.
more
And I love it
diversity,
for
isn't
that.
there?
And there's more
Yeah.
variety. It's easier to find new people. It's also easier to only see the people that you want to see if that's what you choose to do.
Yeah.
So I think we've got
Yeah.
more control on Substack.
Yeah. Great.
Um, and I like it for that.
Yeah.
That's one of the main reasons why I like it.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it'd be interesting to see how illustration sort of ripples out over Substack and how
Mhm.
people use it. Like you say, I know some people are using it, like Emma Gannon, and there's someone else, I can't remember who it is now. It's like a
The
cultural one, but they have a different illustration on every one, and I think they just credit the person. I don't know if they
yeah.
pay them.
Okay.
Um,
Mhm.
but yeah,
Yeah.
interesting to see.
Yeah, so interesting. Well, Claire, it's been lovely. I'll let you get on with your afternoon because I know you obviously missed the slot this morning. But thanks to everybody that came live, and obviously I'll put all Claire's links below if you are listening or watching the replay. It's been beautiful, and thanks for your generosity as always, and all of the joy you bring. You're amazing. Thank
Oh, you're
you.
welcome. Thanks for having me on, Claire. I'll speak to you soon.
See you soon.
All
Bye.
right. See you later, guys. Bye.